Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So the prosecution in the Diddy case, they are winding up now, closing arguments tomorrow and Friday. The jury gets the case probably Monday. So the prosecution just filed paperwork today, actually in the form of a letter to the judge, saying that they wanted to simplify the jury instructions per the judge's instructions. And what they're doing is they're streamlining things. That there are charges alleging kidnapping, arson, that's the Kid Cudi case. They are alleging aiding and abetting in sex trafficking. They are slimming that all down so that they're not going to kind of overburden and overwhelm the jury with instructions.
Right. They're saying that to the judge that when you give the jury their instructions, just leave out the attempted kidnapping, leave out attempted arson, aiding and abetting.
They're saying there's still actual kidnapping.
Yes.
Actual arson.
And those things, the counts, the charges still remain. They're just saying there's no reason in the jury instructions to tell them about the attempted kidnapping.
And Charles, I'll tell you why. Because
actual
attempted means you failed or didn't go through with it. They're alleging it was gone through with, so why bother calling it an attempt as well?
Right. And they're just trying to, because the jury is going to have, there are so many, because there are 4 counts there, and because one of them is a RICO count that has so many underlying alleged crimes, they just want to simplify this so that the jury, when they get their instructions, know
so legal
what to do.
Legal schmiegel. Let's talk about what really matters right
hold
now.
on. I want to say that I know what you want to get to, and we should, but this also plays into that because this is going to be a very complicated thing for the jury to look at. And they are potentially going to be under a bit of a time crunch.
So it looks like each side is going to take a day. So tomorrow, Thursday, there will be a prosecution's closing argument. Friday, the defense's closing argument. And then the judge is going to give instructions to the jury, which may take a couple hours.
Because of what we just talked about.
So realistically, the jury's going to start deliberating on Monday.
Right.
So
they're not going to, they might have an hour or so late on Friday.
Or they may do it, we don't know, they may do it on Friday, depending, they may do it, but the jury's probably going to start deliberating in earnest on Monday. The reality here, folks, is that if you've talked to your friends, you know, some people say, oh, he's guilty on everything, he's guilty on nothing. I don't see the RICO charge, but I do see the Mann Act charge. So my gut tells me, and I don't try to guess juries, but they're not going to all agree right out of the gate. Yeah. So there's going to be debate and, going over evidence and talking. So Monday goes in.
Remember, there are 28 days of testimony, and they're going to go over a lot of.
No, remember, in O.J. Simpson, there was 9 months, but they came in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So it really.
That was.
It really just depends. But I think Monday's going to bleed into Tuesday. And then if you get into Wednesday, there's an issue.
Now things start tightening up.
Yeah, they're really up against the clock because Friday's July 4th, Thursday's July 3rd. Do they want to come in on Thursday?
Well, Thursday the courts are closed.
Or do they want to get it done on Wednesday?
And not only that, there's a court holiday. So court is closed on July 3rd and 4th. That is Thursday and Friday. So what's the best way to get to consensus on Wednesday? The looming idea that you will be dragged into court through a skeletal staff that Judge Subramanian can say, I'm going to open up just the jury room. I'm going to have a skeletal staff come in on a holiday, and you guys are going to continue deliberating. That's going to drive consensus in that jury room to say, hey, I got plans. I want to see some fireworks. You better all get on board.
You can listen to Derek and, based on his record, say, look, he's a doofus. But in this case, he's
it's true, but we don't say it out loud like that.
In this case, he is actually right that experientially, that when you have these 4-day holidays, it's shocking how many juries suddenly reach a consensus right before.
Suddenly I have clarity. You know what? All the 28 days of testimony, I've been seeing it crystal clear.
Well, not just that. But not just that. But you may have an 11-1 split or a 10-2 split on one of the counts. And those two, the pressure on those two, they may have family picnics, they may have family parties, whatever. At a point, I know that sounds trivial and crazy, but there is that kind of inert
in the back
pressure.
Of their head.
Yes.
It's definitely going to be, not even in the back of the head, maybe, toward the front of the head.
They don't want to have it linger over the holiday. They feel that pressure, and it happens a lot.
Can I just say, on behalf of the jurors, they also, I would hope, are taking this very seriously. And if it means that they have to come back on Monday, then so be it. If they don't get it done, they'll get it. All right, so they'll get a 3-day weekend instead of a 4-day weekend.
And
right?
they've
Because nobody's proposing.
They've already lost most of their summer. It's been beautiful days that they're walking out of court, sun shining.
Dude,
the
it's
birds are
110
chirping.
in
They've
New
been in here
York.
since
Yeah,
May.
Nobody
For
wants to be
28
outside.
28 days, 34 witnesses. They already went through Memorial Day. They're getting vertigo. They seem tired. They seem tired.
And the judge is not going to let them on Wednesday say, we're deadlocked, so just call a mistrial. The judge will say, you have to be hopelessly deadlocked. I'm not going to have a mistrial after 3 days of deliberations. I'm going to bring you back on Monday or bring you in on Thursday. So they're not going to be able to just get out of it.
Which puts all the more pressure on them to come up with a verdict before the holiday.
That's exactly right. They will have pressure to come to a verdict because Judge Subramanian is not going to let a mistrial happen after just 3 days.
Or they just come back on Monday and it goes on.
Hi, it's Nikita from Louisiana, and what an interesting turn of events. I think the 4th of July holiday will allow the case to speed up a bit. I feel like the jurors want to get out with their family and enjoy themselves for the weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how this all turns out in the end.
Yep, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. It will be fascinating. Okay.